I forget the technical name for his incarnation, but he is considered to be a specific incarnation of the Lord. His specific duty was to annihilate the miscreant Kshatriyas, and that he did 21 times over. And because the Kshatriyas had become more burden than benefit to Bhumi Devi, the Lord decided to come in his, as a plenary portion of his Supreme Personality of Godhead, to eradicate the Kshatriyas. We also know that Parshuram lived very long, and he lived through Lord Ram's era, and I think that is the time when he actually met Lord Ram, and later on we find Parshuram also met Bhishma, yes, as you said. And finally the Lord, to glorify his great devotee Bhishma, was ready to let him take the stand and appeared to even be defeated. When Bhishma and Parshuram fought, because Amba had actually approached Parshuram, Parshuram was considered at that point unparalleled in warfare, but so was Bhishma. So you had two undefeated champions coming together to see who would defeat each other. But if memory serves me right, the Mahabharata also says that the battle actually ended up more as a draw. But Parshuram accepted defeat because he said, I cannot defeat you, therefore I stand defeated. And that is the glory of the Lord, that he has no qualms about glorifying his devotee. So I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yes. Prabhuji, sorry, Prabhu.
Is it thing of Tanya also met Parshuram on his tours of India?
On his tours of India?
South India, I think he comes to a certain mountain and there he actually meets Parshuram also. So
in fact, this mountain, if I'm not wrong, Prabhu, is actually found in modern day Kerala, in this South India tour. Which is why the place where Lord Chaitanya meets Parshuram at that time is today a place where a temple of Lord Parshuram is. I've actually personally visited that area. And Kerala is actually known as, I think you know, Prabhuji. You're shaking your head as if you know. So it is true. Parshuram Kshetra is another name for the land of Kerala. Because it is believed in Puranic records that Parshuram, after defeating the Kshatriyas, spent many years in solitude and meditation there. So yes, I recall that. Yes. So Parshuram is quite unique because he stays through a lot of, perhaps he wanted to take association of the Lord in his other forms. So Lord Ram, and then you find even up to the point of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Amoga Prabhu, you wanted to ask something.
Is it okay if I ask something more about Parshuram?
Yes, Prabhu. I hope I can help you there.
It is stated that he killed the Kshatriyas 21 times. I'm sorry, I never understood actually how it's like logically happening. Like if he kills like the whole Kshatriya race, then how is it again coming back to Kshatriya so he can kill them another time and then another time?
I think it is fair to state, Bhagavatam doesn't give you a logical statement on how he killed 21 generations, but as far as I remember reading the 9th canto, the description is that each generation that he killed also begot another generation of Kshatriyas. And because the spirit of the Kshatriyas in the next generation was also a burden, the Lord had to eradicate that many generations before the Kshatriyas became peaceful and obeyed and behaved themselves according to Varnashrama Dharma.
Okay, like this, so they already had multiplied before, yeah.
That would possibly be the case.
Yeah.
And that is why, you find 21 generations. And in fact, if you read Bhagavatam, you'll find eventually the Lord's transcendental anger could only be appeased finally by his ancestors, Jamadagni, and Jamadagni has to finally pray to the Lord. And this is found in the Parashuram Purana, and this is also read in Kerala very often, that Jamadagni had to actually make wonderful prayers to Lord Parashuram to let him know that, my Lord, you have done your part, Bhumi Devi has been appeased, and your time is now up. So 21 generations the Lord decided was necessary to cleanse the Kshatriya race. That's all that I can share with you on this point.
May I ask a follow-up point? Because it's also said that he drew out the different tribes, and these tribes they're inhabited different parts of Europe. Prabhupada explains one place.
Yes, Bhagavatam also speaks about the movement of all the Kshatriyas out of fear of Parshuram. So in killing and annihilating the Kshatriyas, Parshuram also contributed to the migration of Kshatriyas all around the world and the formation of different races, which are actually connected to Mahabharata, and that must have also been the Lord's plan, that all these persons were moved out and they then inhabited different parts of the world under different names. But ultimately Prabhupada writes in the purport, the important thing to take from this is the fact that Vedic culture was actually spread all across the world. And of course in time and space, it appears that it has taken a life of its own. But all over the world you find that the traces, you find the traces of Vedic culture everywhere. So that is the important point that Prabhupada takes to remind us of that particular episode.
Thanks, because I just wondered about actually the time when it happened, because you say it's in relation to Mahabharata, so it is in our lifespan, I mean our yuga, I mean in the end of the
See, Parshuram lived a very long time, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So it is possible that this process across 21 generations must have taken a while. It must have taken a while. It must have actually overlapped into the era of the Mahabharata.
Okay, yeah. I see.
Is that okay, Prabhuji?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. Prabhuji, please.
Also more, you just mentioned this Parasuram Purana. I've not heard about that. Is that like the...
Actually, yeah, it is the glories of Parshuram and prayers in glorification of Parshuram. When I was in Kerala, I remember the ISKCON devotees speaking about it, the temple presidents speaking about it, because it is a tradition in Kerala to glorify the Lord in this form. But when I asked him where this Purana is available, he also said that excerpts of these prayers come from different parts of the Puranas. I'm not sure which Puranas they come from, but they are prayers taken from Puranas and put together in the temple where they chant the prayers in offerings to Parshuram.
Okay, because it's also, isn't that, because there are 18 main Puranas,
yes,
but also there are other Puranas besides this?
Yes, there are 108 Puranas all in all, of which 18 are principal.
Okay.
That's what I understand. Yeah. And in these 108 Puranas, I remember reading that there are subdivisions of the Puranas also. So which means there are different parts of Puranas which may glorify certain aspects of the Supreme Lord. So that's what I understand. So the 18 principal Puranas are there, and there are others also. Maybe not so widely translated, maybe not so widely read.
But they exist.
They exist. They exist.
Also,
yes, Prabhupada.
I heard a story about actually this with Renuka coming back from having fetched water, and actually, who was that who said that? It's not in the Bible somewhere. I just wanted to confirm that if that's bona fide or not. But actually, the way that she was actually so chaste that she would go and fetch water with a sari without a jar, and she would just hold it in the sari because of the chastity, it wouldn't run through. But actually, when she came back, because she had been unchaste, the sari was wet. You heard that?
No, I have not heard that. Yeah. I remember reading that Jamadagni could divine looking at her face and her countenance. Yeah. But it could be, there may be variations, but I've not heard that.
I heard that story. Yeah. Who told it?
I've not heard that.
Just heard that recently.
Okay. I've not heard this point. No. But I think the point of the episode is still, I think, largely the same. That, the point of submission and the point of how the Lord expertly showed us how important it is to follow the words of the Guru, who is bona fide. Inquiry is important, but after inquiry there must be submission. Otherwise our inquiries eventually go into speculation. We ask for the sake of asking, but we never practice what our spiritual master tells us. Then it becomes a great exercise in mental speculation and gymnastics, and after a while the disciple says, I am Guru. So that is something to be avoided. I don't know my timing. Yes, Prabhuji.
As when we are at Parashuram,
Yes, yes.
I can ask a little
Yeah,
side
this is also
question with
about
that.
Parashuram. Yeah.
Maybe not such an important question, but still now I was wondering. Because Prabhupada many times mentioned that he comes 3 times, 7 times. I wonder if there's some significance to that.
Yes, I have actually asked my spiritual master. I also asked Gopinath Maharaj one time when he was in Singapore. And he said that there are times when Prabhupada mentions certain different numbers of times in terms of Parshuram and other avatars in Bhagavatam. That is, we can understand that in relation to the fact that Krishna also takes such incarnations at different times in different manvantaras and in different parts of the universes. So the incarnation of the Lord in a particular pastime may sometimes be manifested 2-3 times over, sometimes in different part of the universe more times. Like for example, a good example is the example of the Lord in his Varaha incarnation. Prabhupada writes in the 3rd canto that in a certain millennium, the Lord comes in the form of Varaha but at a different time. And the pastime is a little different in the sense that the efforts of the Lord in lifting Bhumi Devi is not in one pastime, but the effort of lifting Bhumi Devi is found in another pastime. So that's how I could understand what Loknath Maharaj was trying to explain. That's what I'm repeating.
So it's in different millenniums?
There could be the Lord appears and takes his incarnation in different millenniums. So sometimes the Puranas record 3 times. There are also other times when the Puranas record 7 times. This is the same issue that comes into being when you read the 5th canto, the structure of the universe and the descriptions of Jambudvip, which has always been very interesting for ISKCON because sometimes devotees are divided as to how, because Prabhupada has given a variety of descriptions of Jambudvip. Sometimes Jambudvip is described as this entire earth, sometimes it's described as one of the continents of the entire universe. But Prabhupada also writes that the important thing to understand is Bhagavatam or Puranas are not chronological in order. In the 6th canto, 1st chapter, I think it's the 16th or 17th verse, Prabhupada quotes a verse after Shukadev Goswami has spoken about the power of devotional service, and he quotes that verse to say that the Puranas are not chronological. The problem in this material world is because we are used to seeing everything chronologically, we cannot understand if there are different dimensions to the time factor. So that makes it difficult for us. Rather, the Puranas must be approached topically. And that's how Bhagavatam has actually approached us. Which is why if you were to try and understand Bhagavatam chronologically, sometimes it may be confusing. But if we understand the concepts of devotional service topically, then we come to understand that the Acharyas are more interested in substance than in form. So that's what I can share.
That will also correspond to...
Actually it would. It would. Yeah, it would. It covers quite a few areas and ground. Is it time to stop? I should stop. Thank you, Prabhus.
Good.
Thank you, Matajis, for your time and your association. Tomorrow I was supposed to stay on for the afternoon feast, but my father is not keeping very well and it has come as a last minute thing, so I must go back to see how he's doing. But I just want to say, if I don't have time, that the quality of devotional service in this congregation is very inspiring. Very inspiring. I'm reminded of Prabhupada's point that one moon is more important than many stars. And I think this is the foundation on which you have built this temple. And if we can keep that point, that the quality and fabric of devotional service is what finally attracts even quantity, and not the other way around. My experience is if you get into the magic box of statistics and decide that the success of a temple is measured by how many plates we give out or how many people we see, then we forget the substance. The substance is, what are we doing in the glorification of the Lord, and how are we serving? If we have that in mind, then I think you can see by how Prabhupada established this movement, automatically all opulence, all awesome power, all morality, they come very naturally on the platform of devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Namo Vishnu Krishna Krishna